The hunter-gatherer myth, why it's time to bury this outdated term. Introduction. Take a moment to picture the average Mesolithic person. What do you see? A ragged figure chasing deer with a spear? A nomad trudging through the forest with a handful of berries? If so, you've been sold a myth, a neatly packaged academic fiction known as the hunter-gatherer. It's time we dismantled it. Where did the term even come from? The label hunter-gatherer was coined during the golden age of Victorian anthropology, when white men in waistcoats sat in armchairs and categorized human beings into stages of civilization. Their goal? To show how clever and advanced they were by comparison. They invented a ladder, savagery, barbarism, civilization. And guess who got shoved on the bottom rung? That's right, any group that didn't build cities, write in Latin, or farm wheat in rows. The phrase hunter-gatherer was born not out of evidence but out of elitist ideology. It was never meant to explain, it was meant to dismiss. The House of Cards begins to wobble. For decades, the term held firm. Archaeologists casually applied it to all Mesolithic peoples, especially in Britain. They painted a picture of small, mobile bands who survived hand to mouth in a wild, untouched land. But bit by bit, the evidence started punching holes in the story. Timber homes and platforms built along rivers and wetlands show long-term habitation and planning. Langdale axe stone was being quarried, shaped and traded across Britain. Obsidian, jet, shells and ochre were transported over continental distances. And most damning of all, boats used to travel, trade and connect. As for the old narratives, they fall apart under scrutiny. Take the supposed ritual deer masks of Star Carr, likely just toys or ornaments given their small size and awkward construction. However, many archaeologists default to religious fantasy or shamanic mysticism rather than rethinking their assumptions to avoid confronting a more practical, intelligent society. Mesolithic Britain was a trade-in superhighway. Let's be blunt, you don't trade obsidian across the Alps or Langdale axes across Britain by wandering aimlessly through the woods. You need logistics, navigation, shipbuilding, and a network. The North Sea and the Channel were not barriers, they were highways. The Mesolithic was maritime. Fisher folk became traders. River systems became arterial routes. Trade wasn't just present, it was foundational. Yet, archaeologists kept repeating hunter-gatherer as if these people were somehow less than. Why the term no longer works and never really did. Let's break down why hunter-gatherer is not just inaccurate, it's insulting. So let's list what it implies and what the evidence shows. HGs wandered aimlessly, yet they returned seasonally to establish settlements. HGs lived hand to mouth, yet they had surplus and storage systems. HGs were isolated, yet they traded across hundreds of miles. HG lived in temporary shelters, yet they built homes, platforms, even causeways. HGs were simple and passive, yet they were engineers, navigators and diplomats, and are the megalithic builders. In recent decades, the problem has only worsened. Instead of retiring the term, archaeologists have stretched it, shoehorning in entirely different societies to keep the hunter-gatherer model alive. When there is evidence for permanent homes, complex structures or monumental building surfaces, as with the megalithic builders, the explanation is now seasonal use. That term has become a get-out clause. used to explain away the absence of houses while clinging to the myth of nomadism. What we're left with is a linguistic mess. Hunter-gatherer now means everything and nothing. It includes boat builders, ritual architects and regional traders, but still implies simplicity and mobility. It's a label too blunt for our evidence and too convenient for the questions archaeologists aren't willing to ask. The most striking irony. The term was supposedly abandoned the moment farmers arrived in Britain around 4000 BCE. It is as if a new population suddenly appears and rewrites the story overnight. But the data doesn't support that. The continuity of settlement, culture and trade points to a replacement, but an evolution. This means that the old label was never fit for purpose in the first place. What should we say instead? We need new language, not just a new box, but no box at all. Context is key. A few alternatives: maritime Mesolithic communities, pre-agrarian traders, aquatic resource managers, coastal navigators of post-glacial Europe. Better still, just name the culture or region and describe their actual behaviour. The people of the Severn estuary were expert canoe traders who built seasonal fish traps and settled floodplain islands. Simple, honest, accurate. The real damage of lazy labels, words, shape thought. If you call someone a hunter-gatherer, you're not just describing their diet, you're defining their worth, their place in history, and how much respect they get from future generations. And this term, it's robbed Mesolithic people of the credit they deserve. They weren't dumb, they weren't backward, and they weren't primitive. They were adaptable, intelligent and strategic, surviving and thriving in a flooded, shifting landscape using boats, trade and ingenuity. Let's retire the term for good. It's time to stop repeating outdated myths. The archaeological record is clear. Britain's Mesolithic people were not passive foragers. They were active architects of their world, navigating a post-glacial continent using waterways, knowledge and exchange. So next time someone says hunter-gatherers, ask them this: do you mean the boat builders, the traders, the engineers, or are you still living in 1877?